Okay, we're moving on to our second speaker for tonight, and that is going to be Don Prue. And this is Don's back pocket speech. It was a speech that he did for his CC, Competent Communicator. The title is Don't Be Afraid. Don't be very afraid. And he hopes it gives you the courage to overcome something that you've always feared. Don Prue.
Fellow Toastmasters, and I was going to say honored guests, but I guess there aren't any honored guests, so I'll just say fellow Toastmasters. Growing up in the 1960s, we were able to do a lot of things on our own without a lot of supervision. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, one of the places we used to go in the summer was a quarry to swim. Now, this quarry was a deep body of water. It was over 100 feet deep, and there was a cliff, probably 50 or 60 feet, that everybody used to jump off of. And I thought it was really neat, and I always wanted to do it, but I was a little afraid. So what I did was I found a tree to climb up, and I jumped off that. The problem was, and it was only about a 15-foot drop, but the problem was when I dropped, I felt this nausea coming up as my stomach rose as I fell. And boy, I didn't like that feeling. I decided right then that jumping off trees and cliffs was not what I was going to do. All those kind of fun and exciting stuff was off the table for me. No way, no how, not going to do it. I stayed clear of roller coasters, cliffs, or anything else that would give me my stomach that queasy. Then one day in my early 40s, I was talking to a family friend who, like myself, had experienced a heart attack, but he was still going on roller coasters at a place called Busch Gardens. And I asked him, how could he take that chance with his heart condition? To which he said, why not? You can't stop living. So a few years later, I ended up moving to Temple Terrace, about 2 miles from that place called Busch Gardens. And shortly after I moved here, I happened to be sitting and watching TV, and all of a sudden, this jet fighter pilot came on talking about G-forces and explaining what G-suits did and how they tightened up your abdomen area to stop the blood from rushing down into your feet when they were taking these hard turns and experiencing the G-forces. Well, he also said that you could stop that feeling by just tightening up your muscles, like doing crunches or something like that. I thought, oh, wow, that's my answer. So I grabbed my wife and off to Busch Gardens we went. Now, I was pretty smart and decided not to do one of the big roller coasters. I tried the process on a small roller coaster called Scorpion. And bang, it worked. So the next thing you know, I'm going to Mon 2. I go on Mon 2, bang, it works. Now I'm a roller coaster fanatic at 45 years old. So I have gone on every single roller coaster just about in the state of Florida. And I can tell you this, the best roller coaster in the state of Florida, without a doubt, is SheiKra. You go up and then you make a half moon. And what it does is it takes you over the edge and you stand there 4 or 5 seconds just hanging, looking straight down, and then they let you go in your free fall for about 4 or 5 seconds. And I can do it now because I tighten up my muscles or tighten up my abdomen and bang, I don't get that queasy feeling. Another story. Before I went on SheiKra, I actually went to a conference out at Universal. And what they did at the end of the conference was they got Universal, the park, for the night. So we got to go on a roller coaster. There were actually two called Fire and Ice. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they were two roller coasters on two different tracks, but they ended up meeting or kind of crashing into each other. Well, one of the people there was an avid roller coaster fan, and he said, "Oh, you got to go in the front seat." So we went on the front seat 5 or 6 times in a row. It was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had on a roller coaster. And every time it came straight at it, and just before it hit, it would rotate up into a corkscrew. And you were probably 4 or 5 feet from the other people's feet. And it was just super. So when I went to SheiKra, the first thing I did was make sure I was on the front seat of that roller coaster. And I stood there hanging over the edge, and then it just went down, and it was super. It was one of the best experiences as a roller coaster rider I've ever had. Now, to be fair, I haven't been on the new one. I think it's called Iron Quancy now. I went there a couple of weeks ago, and the wait was 70 minutes. And I don't wait for 70 minutes for anything. I don't care how cool it is. So I'll find some time to go on a Monday, a Tuesday, or Wednesday when there isn't a 70-minute wait, and I will let everyone know what I think of Iron Quancy. Madam Toastmaster.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Don. Don, I believe, was telling us an educational, a motivational type speech. And this was with right there in the speech title, "Don't be afraid. Don't be very afraid. Find the courage." And that is find the courage to do things. Don opened up his speech by saying things that really are akin to a lot of things I think most of us have. We have fears of doing stuff. We have fears of climbing trees and jumping off into lakes. We have fears of roller coasters. And so Don filled the structure of the body of the story with all these tidbits of what the fear he had was. And then he moved on. Don gave the detail. And so I liked how, Don, how you filled in all this detail of things, again, that we feel ourselves. The closing closed right into that, Don. You filled it in by saying, by finding a way, giving us that educational moment, by finding a way to overcome your fears, which is, I believe, where you were going with the speech. And so you don't give up. You look for that tidbit that can help you do things. And he found it, right, with the G suit, thinking out of the box. I said this was an educational speech because I believe you are thinking out of the box by trying to overcome your fears, by doing things that maybe necessarily you wouldn't even think of. And that is by doing crunches before getting onto a roller coaster. Unbelievable idea of how to overcome my fears. I wish I would have known this. I wish I would have been in Toastmasters years ago to even understand that. With that, Don, the only thing I can think of is maybe you could have brought into something saying there has to be something like an image of a holy grail. Don was looking for the holy grail of how to overcome fears, and maybe showing an image of that just to give us a visual would be the only comment I would think that came from the speech. Now, it was a pocket speech, and out of the back pocket, it was very well done. As I said, great opening body, and Don concluded it just as how I would thought. Maybe you could give a little bit on saying here's an action I want you all to try. Try doing crunches before doing something scary. With that, Don, very good. I look forward to more.